This year we have something really extra special. 117 iconic cars from the era of modern classics. But what exactly are modern classics? The ones we had up on our walls, the poster cars, the ones we fell in love with. These are the cars that we have for you today, and you can see some of the best of them lined up here today. So let's take a look at some of these icons, some of the really jaw-dropping, drool-worthy cars. Welcome to the Modern Classic Rally 2025, brought to you by Kotak Mahindra Prime. But first up, here's why the curator of the show, Perseus Bandrawala, thinks modern classics are at the sweet spot.
We have 117 of the best modern classic cars in India at the same place, at the same time, spread across various classes. This is one of my favorite classes because this really defines modern classics.
So where do we begin? Well, how about starting with some real muscle? American V8s, big blocks. How about right here? Now at the confluence of muscle car and sports car sits America's famous Corvette. And of course that legacy of the V8 powered sports car, simple but effective, carries on all the way till today. This one is a C4 with a pop-up headlights. The iconic low-slung shape that has given it its presence and its identity all these years. So from one icon to another, and America's always been about going bigger and better. And this V10 is an 8-liter engine that was made just for this car and was finally built by Lamborghini. They were the same company at the time. What an icon, and what an iconic shape. Now this is a car we've seen before at our events, but what a job this is. Look at the paint job, look at the wheels, the chip foose wheels. And having driven this car, I can tell you there's no better feeling than putting your foot down and having a 345 section rear tire spinning as easily as it's a narrow 125 or a 145 space saver. Part of our dirty dozen or so muscle cars, this Camaro LT with its 350 engine, that's a Mach 1 Mustang. Check those out, those nostrils. That here with its lovely paint scheme is another big block Mustang. That's a fastback if you look at the rear. One of the icons of the muscle car age, the Nova, is another Mach 1 with what was used for drag racing. It started out for getting more power. That's a bus supercharger. In the US, the buses were petrol. They needed more power and they used these huge superchargers. Of course, these have evolved, but they started out as bus superchargers. Up ahead, another icon, the Charger with that typical fastback. And look at that, no headlights here. Of course, they're not visible. They flip and they open up. From one icon again to another, the Trans Am, again with a shaker hood there in this iconic black and gold color. Here's another Firebird from Pontiac, the old Pontiac logo visible here. Smaller 326 engine, and finally the Z28. Wow, what a set. The entire history of the muscle car practically visible at the 2025 Modern Classic Show. Now to something extra special, an early 70s Formula 5000 car. This is a Surtees, Team Surtees from the motorcycle and car Formula 1 champion John Surtees. Imported by a member of the Gondal royal family to go racing in India, this car actually raced and won on tracks like Sholavaram in Madras, Jakhur in Bangalore and Juhu in Bombay. And you can see the early start of aerodynamics, this shovel nose with channels of air going through these end plates, the chin, very interesting design, and of course the side pods on each side for the radiator. And as you look on top, you can see the NACA ducts. NACA, of course, was the precursor to NASA, and they designed this duct for good airflow. And now for a real treat. Let's hear that racing Chevy engine. Now people don't associate Japan with a great legacy of sports cars. Look at this silly car, it was rallied. That's the mid-engine MR2, the second version, the second generation. That's a more style-oriented Serra. Honda's Prelude that also pioneered rear-wheel steering, as they call it, RWS. The S2000 with its 9,000 RPM engine. And of course, Mazda's Miata that has become a legend because of how good it is to drive and how cute and practical it is. Based on the British sports car, this car today is still alive and kicking, and that's where it started from. Now, interestingly, some badges here are not Mazda. They are from the other brand it uses called Yunos. That's the Mazda badge. And of course, finally here, the other Toyota legend, the Supra, the one with the famous 2JZ engine, the 6-cylinder that you could boost up to 1,000, 1,500 or even higher horsepower. That's the car. Now for some Japanese icons that have made this movement so special. That's the GTR R33, and the technology of this car, the way it managed to put down power, that became legendary. And the GTR, of course, has evolved into that car, the modern day car. Of course, that isn't a stock car by any chance. The R35 was a special display as one of India's fastest cars. Now this car was the sort of game changer for supercars. It made things so accessible, so refined, so easy to drive, and that of course was the NSX, Honda's supercar that they made to be a Honda as well as a supercar. And of course, the legendary driver Ayrton Senna was involved in the making of that car. Very, very iconic shape. Now a low, tight-fitting nose with these pop-up lights. This roof was in contrast black, which made it stand out. A very Honda-like cabin. It didn't look too special, especially on first acquaintance, but vents here for the mid-engine, and the tail lights that reached up into this section that had the spoiler. This, of course, is an aftermarket spoiler, this carbon fiber spoiler, but that was the car that changed the supercar, and I don't think Honda planned to do that, but it was just so drivable and so accessible, the performance, that the traditional supercar makers had to rethink how they were making their cars, and that includes Ferrari, Lamborghini, the big guys. Now from the Japanese icons to the Brits, and we start off with, of course, the most iconic British brand, Rolls-Royce. There's Jaguars up ahead, Triumphs and Lotus. Now what a great opportunity to look at these 4 Rolls-Royce sedans or limousines and see how the design has evolved. First up, the Silver Shadow, of course, with that iconic V8, the really smooth engine that they used for years and years, based on an American engine. And if you see these lights encased in this chrome bracket, of course, this Parthenon grille with the flying lady, but it's these vertical elements here and the V shape of the bonnet from the grille that make up the basis of the design. And once we go to the next car, the Silver Spur, you can see a lot of those lines in this car as well. Now the Silver Spur didn't have as many flourishes, it was more neat, tidy and minimalist, but you can see the evolution from one to another, and of course that too immediately tells you it's a Rolls-Royce. Again, creamy smooth V8, massive sofas on the inside, floaty ride, total comfort. Now the Silver Seraph has a V12, not a V8. It's taken from BMW, and that's about the time when the company acquired Rolls-Royce. But as you can see, the evolution, even 2 generations apart, is pretty clear. The vertical elements, these lights here, the Parthenon grille, of course it's a bit more rounded here, and that V-shaped bonnet. And what we also have here is the evolution of Rolls-Royce design from this 3-box shape to the larger, more carriage-like cars, the tall cars that started with the Phantom, and that's the Phantom drop head coupe with its big cliff, as they called it, a design change from these cars to this one. And this iconic headlight plays low down. Of course, the Rolls-Royce grille evolved as well, but you also had a big long bonnet, a more stately air, and a lot more upright seating position. Now, it's not every day that the car comes along and changes how sports cars are made, but that's just what the Elise did with its bonded aluminium chassis, super lightweight, and of course Lotus, famous for its fantastic handling, its perfect handling. It's said to the world that you need only lightness and agility to make a great sports car, and that's what these two cars are, iconic shapes, icons of the sports car world. While the first gen Elise isn't here, can you guess its weight? Well, just 725 kilos. Now on to something absolutely right up there in the sports car world, the E-Type. And this was sort of the final evolution. Both of these are V12s, the convertible and the coupe. But look at the design, the long bonnet, that central bulge in the middle, the vents on the side. This car is just timeless. And don't forget to look at how the sides have been rounded. It's not something you can make today. Today's rules don't allow you to make cars like this. And that's why this one is a timeless example of the sports car. Now for a set of three very special mid-engine Ferraris. They're not just the mid-engine cars, they are the more performance-oriented versions. Now let's start with the first one. That's just not any 430, that's a 430 Scuderia, and one of the first specials that Ferrari did in this range. It was a tighter, handling, faster car. And that evolved into the 458 Special, and this one is an Aperta. Aperta means open top, but the Special was the best edition of the best naturally aspirated V8, the one that revved above 9,000 RPM and give you that absolutely amazing driving experience. Up next, after the Speciale, as it's pronounced in Italian, the last car in this series, the only one with the twin turbo. We also have the Pista here, which is the final evolution for the twin turbo V8, and this one eventually putting out 711 horsepower. That's 711 brake horsepower or 720 horsepower. And why is it that this car is the last in the series? Well, it's simple. The F8 never had a special and interestingly used a version of the Pista engine. What a set, the three of them. And right next to them is another lightweight special edition, but that's a Lamborghini, that's the Superleggera. With its design evolved from the Countach, that wide, short bonnet that blends seamlessly into the windscreen and the roof, the Gallardo was a car that changed perceptions. It weighed only 1,330 kilos, and that's with four-wheel drive and that big V10 engine putting out 530 horsepower. Now, didn't I tell you we have almost every single modern classic icon? Well, there you go. The SLS AMG's GOAT, the one with a 6.3 or actually 6.2 litre naturally aspirated V8 that runs like a bomb. Of course, this one has the gull-wing doors, and that also makes it an icon. Now for another set of Italian icons, Alfa Romeo. Now, Alfa Romeo was always famous for its convertibles, and this one is known as a Duetto with its boat tail, very iconic boat tail. And look at the way the grille has been placed. The shield, the Alfa shield has been placed at an angle here. Super. Lovely covered Perspex lights. And this one was done by Giorgetto Giugiaro when he was at Bertone. This one started out as a 1300 Junior, but that's the 1750, the bigger engined one with the GTV badge. Now, this four-cylinder engine was one of the first twin cams, and it was considered to be one of the best four cylinders in the world for years and years. Twin Weber carburetors as ever. That larger one, the 2600, came with a six-cylinder engine. And here's another trend that Alfa Romeo sort of kick-started: the Berlina or the TIs or the sporting sedans. Powerful engines, four-seaters, comfortable everyday family cars, and that was taken forward by BMW and other brands eventually. Now for some Maseratis. The first one, the bi-turbo that had a twin-turbo V6, the world's first. And yes, Maserati did name a car after an engine much before Ferrari. Right next to it, the 4200 GT with those absolutely stunning lines, the long bonnet, the tight-fitting cabin and the powerful haunches. It had a belt-turbo V8 that put out 396 horsepower. Now the MC Stradale uses the same F136 V8 shared and co-developed with Ferrari. Only difference being this one doesn't use a flat plane crankshaft. The Stradale also was one of the best handling front engine cars of its day. Now 3 icons born from rally greatness from the WRC. First up, the Evo 8 from Mitsubishi. Subaru's STI, the Colin McRae linkage, and Colin McRae linkage here also, the famous WRC driver. That's the Focus RS, considered one of the best handling front-wheel drive cars of its time. Now for some Germans, and this Audi 100 that was won by Ravi Shastri in 1985, the Champions of Champions trophy. And if you come up here, there's a couple of his signatures as well. This is the car that the team sat on the bonnet of and drove around the stadium. Iconic car. Right next to it, the Audi 80 that even today looks like it's a modern car. What a timeless design. Up ahead, some Mercedes icons. These are a few SLs, and you can see how the design moved from this, the Panzerwagen, to the more sleek looking SL. And here a pair of SECs, the S-Class base coupes with their bold lines, Bruno Soccer lines. And this one finally a more modern day version, the CL. Now loads of BMW history here for all you BMW fans. That's the E21, the first 3 series. This one here is the E30, 325 6-cylinder engine. And here that's the 325E, which was a slightly different engine configuration for the US market. That there is the first really fast coupe from BMW, the 635 CSI, 3.5 litre straight 6 bomb of a car. And this one is a 5 series with a diesel engine. It was known as a TDS in its time. Now 2 M3s with open tops, that was really a high point for BMW. Especially the E46, which became something of a legend. We also have SUVs, Toyotas, Hiluxes and Land Cruisers. And that of course is a Defender spruced up to look like a camel trophy car, something really unique. This one, another icon, the first gen Range Rover, and you can see the link to today's car even in this design. The first super luxury SUV right here. No soft roaders here, they weren't around at the time, just real SUVs. Now we have compact cars here as well, including K cars that define the length and width. But these two, the first two are Smarts, and collaboration between Swatch and Mercedes. That one's a Suzuki Cappuccino, really tiny turbocharged sports car, and a mini Pajero, also a K car. And if this one looks familiar, it's because this car actually went on sale in India, not as a Daihatsu. Tell us in the comments below if you know what car that is. The modern classic era, along with the Boxster, also saw the birth of compact German sports cars. The SLK from Mercedes, Z3 and Z4 from BMW, and of course, who can forget Audi's iconic TT here. What a fantastic shape. Now some of the icons of Porsche, and that's the first one. Well, not the very first car, but it is a 356 and it is a special version, the SC, around 108 horsepower from that compact 4-cylinder. It was a 4-cylinder at the time, but of course rear mounted. And if you look at the shape, the haunches, the way this air-cooled rear is shaped, the pontons here on the front, the angle of the windscreen, the headlights, and you look to the modern car, you can see a clear resemblance without even having to see all the cars that went in between. And the best part is, some of those link cars are right here. Now the 996 was the first water-cooled 6-cylinder 911, and that had the runny egg headlights, especially when this was in yellow, it looked like the yoke had run. The 997, that was the first car sold in India, the first 911. The incredible bit is that this 4-wheel drive 997 turbo is even quick by today's standards. And now for probably the most iconic 911, that's the 993, the last air-cooled 6-cylinder. And these cars today, especially some of the turbos and the GTs, are amongst the most expensive cars you can get today, with prices climbing literally every month. Day 2 of the Modern Classic Rally 2025 also saw the growlers, howlers and mile-eating prowlers move out like a squadron on patrol. Engines booming, some screaming, the cars getting a chance to drive along the scenic coastal road that runs along the western side of Mumbai. So not only was this time's rally the first ever event to have a showcase where the public could buy tickets and attend, this was also the first time the rally drove the bulk of the newly opened coastal road. Driving along its wide vistas impressed the participants and gave a feeling of flying along the coastal road due to many of the elevated sections being open to sky and sea on one side. Crowds also lined up to watch the spectacle at Kalina, Bandra and at the U-turn at Breach Candy in South Mumbai. And in addition, many cars we passed along the route had phone-totting passengers shooting videos of their favorite cars. It's not every day that you have upwards of 100 wow cars passing you in a short span of time. What a treat. So that's it then, some of the best modern classics at our show. But before we go, here's what some of the owners said about their cars, what they thought of the show and modern classics in general.
Yeah, I think, the modern classics are really the cars which were analog and amazing. If you go to see today, there's so much electronics, so much hybrid. These were real automobiles at their best, I would say. That moved from the classics, but before the new gen, electronic cars. So I truly enjoy them, like the 111S here. You and me have had so much fun driving it. It's no power steering, soft brakes. Very go-kart feel, so amazing.
They are easy to drive, comfortable, practical, more than my vintage cars. Well, these are two of my special Ferraris. They are by invitation only. You have to build up a profile with Ferrari to be able to own these two special cars. This is my Speciale Aperta. It's the only one in India, 499 made in the world. And this is my Pista Spider, also a very special car.
Basically, I love two-door coupes with a V8 engine. So that was what, after college, I used to always hunt for. And that time there were no much takers for these. This like how the classic car awareness is now. It wasn't then. So I could manage to buy a few cars. So I've got a few cars in my collection now, maybe 5, 7 of these muscle cars.
This one is a 996 convertible. The fun part about this car is that it's a manual. So it's got a very nice manual gear lever, and you can really enjoy yourself. 996s weren't really the most popular 911 because of the shape and the, the lights on this. They were not very popular, but I think as time is going by, they're slowly gaining popularity.
It's fantastic. You've had the most incredible turnout, and I'm really surprised to see how well you've organized it.
For today's event, I bought down the Miata NC. It's something that I've just picked up because the whole modern classic car movement is picked up thanks to an event like this. And though we work on old vintage cars and classic cars, I personally love these modern classics because they are so drivable. And apart from that, they have a little bit of blend of modern, come some part of it that's classics, so it goes really well with my personality too.
So this is one and unique, the only one in India. It's a Ford Focus RS. It's a stage 2 tuned 400 horsepower front wheel drive car. This is the one which they actually made for the WRC rally. Since they had to homologate a car, they made 1,000 vehicles, and this was the version of the vehicle they made. This is one of my favorite to drive. This is my best car because the potholes are the best to drive over. The suspension takes it as clean as possible. It's almost like a soft ride.
Special thanks also to Johan Poonawalla, Gautam Singhania, His Highness Himanshu of Gondal, Vivek and Zita Goenka, Pratap Singh Gaikwad, Joey Postel, Sagar Shetty and Raj Jain for bringing multiple or extra special cars for this event. Special thanks to Imran Majid and Samit Hede. Editor Hurmas Surabji also spoke to Kotak Mahindra Prime MD and CEO Shahrukh Todiwala.
Shahrukh, something quite unique, not what you'll normally do, but I think clearly, the passion for old cars translates to passion for new cars as well, which is core to your business.
Absolutely. So first of all, let me congratulate you for putting up a fantastic show.
Thank you.
And Hurmas, frankly, it's a commendable job to get so many cars at one place and for this kind of an event. Probably I would have forgotten so many cars which I would have seen in the past, and today probably it has refreshed my memory also, because I, being from the community, I also like cars so much, and cars have been a part of my life, and it's an amazing show and super show. I'm really happy to be here.
The 2025 Modern Classic Rally was also supported by car care partner Vista Auto Care, premium automotive wheels partner Advantech Wheels, lubricant partner Mobile India, hospitality partner Grand Hyatt Mumbai and hydration partner Smoke Lab.